Imagine owning a home only to discover it's been stolen, the deed taken by scammers. And today, for the first time, New York's Attorney General charged 2 people under a new law against it.
She was 88 years old. She was completely bedridden. She could not turn herself in bed. She could not feed herself. She could not hold a pen. And while she lay dying in the home she had built her life in, while her round-the-clock health aides watched over her, and her family managed her affairs from a legal power of attorney signed years earlier, 2 people walked up to that home and claimed it. Not with a weapon, not with a court order, not with any legitimate paperwork at all. According to the New York Attorney General's office, they did it with a forged signature, a fake notary stamp, and a piece of paper called a deed. And according to prosecutors, they did it because the system made it easy. The county clerk recorded the transfer without verifying a single signature. No alert went out to the family. No agency flagged it. The home changed hands on paper, while Renuka Burwani lay in her bed with dementia, unaware that anything had happened at all. So how does a woman who cannot hold a pen sign away the home she owned for nearly 40 years? And who was sitting close enough to her to pull it off? To understand that, you have to go back to Kew Gardens Hills, Queens, in the year 1986. That was the year Renuka Burwani and her husband Mohan immigrated to the United States from India and bought a home in a quiet residential neighborhood in Queens. According to the Attorney General's office, that house became their life. They raised a family in it. They built their American story inside it. And when Mohan passed away in 2022 after decades inside those walls, Renuka stayed. She was elderly. She had dementia. She needed around-the-clock care, but she still had her home. That matters. For millions of older immigrants, for older Americans of every background, the home is not just real estate. It is the single largest asset they own. It is often the only thing they have that can pass to their children. It is decades of mortgage payments, of tax bills, of repairs and upkeep, and everything else that goes into turning a building into a legacy. And for people with dementia, people in hospice, people who cannot manage their own affairs any longer, that home becomes acutely vulnerable because the person inside it can no longer defend it. By 2020, Renuka was receiving in-home care from health aides in the Kew Gardens Hills house. By March 2021, according to the AG's office, her cognitive decline was serious enough that her son, Kamal Burwani, and his wife Sabita had been granted full legal power of attorney to manage her affairs. That means they were the ones handling her finances, her property, her legal decisions. Renuka was no longer legally in a position to sign anything. That detail is important. We will come back to it. Sometime in 2022, according to investigators, a woman named Deepa Roy began appearing at the house. She was 68 years old and lived in Manhattan. She told the health aides she was a friend of Renuka's. The aides let her in. Kamal, according to his own public statements, was not alarmed. His mother was isolated, grieving the loss of her husband, and he was glad for her to have company. He had never met Roy in person. She always came, he later said publicly, when the family was not there. The visits continued over the following years, and then in the summer of 2024, Roy made a move. According to the AG's office, she asked the health aides to allow her to live in a spare room in the house. The aides brought this to Kamal and Sabita. They said no. The request was denied. What happened next, according to the indictment filed by the New York Attorney General's office, was that Roy and her associate Victor Quimis, a 39-year-old Queens resident, went ahead anyway. On the 13th of October 2024, according to prosecutors, Roy and Quimis forged Renuka Burwani's signature on a deed transferring ownership of her home to themselves, for free. The woman who could not turn in her bed, who could not feed herself, who had not had legal authority to sign anything since 2021 according to her power of attorney, had her name placed on a document that gave away everything she owned. Before we go further, if you have a parent, a grandparent, or anyone older in your life who could be exposed to something like this case carries a warning worth keeping. I have put together a free scam-proof retirement guide built around the exact warning signs. Cases like this keep showing us how this kind of fraud works, what to watch for, and the questions to ask before it is too late. You can grab it through the link below or scan the QR code on your screen. It is free, and it is built to be shared with the people who need it most. Now let us talk about how this actually worked. because most people do not realize how easy it is. And that is exactly what made this possible. In the United States, when you want to transfer ownership of a piece of real estate, you use a document called a deed. The deed names who is giving the property and who is receiving it. It needs to be signed by the person transferring the property. It needs to be notarized, meaning a licensed notary public witnesses the signing and applies their official stamp. Then it goes to the county clerk's office to be recorded, and once it is recorded, the transfer is legally recognized. That sounds like a system with checks built in, and in theory, it is. In practice, county clerks do not authenticate signatures. They do not verify that the person named on the deed actually appeared before the notary. They do not call the property owner to confirm the transfer. According to investigators in this case, the Nassau County notary, whose stamp appeared on the deed, never notarized any such document. Her signature, according to the AG's office, was forged. The stamp was incorrectly dated. None of that stopped the deed from being recorded. There is no automatic alert to a property owner when their deed is transferred. There is no phone call, no warning letter from the government, no flag to the family holding power of attorney. The county records the transfer and moves on. The only way to know your home has been stolen is to be watching your mail very carefully, or to happen to look up your own property records. Most elderly homeowners do not do either of those things. Roy and Quimis did not stop at one deed. According to the AG's office, they also forged Renuka's signature on additional real estate transfer documents required by the city, including a registration form for water and sewer billing with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. Then in December 2024, according to prosecutors, they used a second forged deed to transfer the home again, this time to a corporation called Hunter Studios and Developer Corp., a company owned by Quimis. Again, the Nassau County notary's signature was forged. With that second transfer completed, Quimis used the deed to obtain a mortgage of $552,500, according to the AG's office. He paid off the prior mortgage and existing liens on the property in his own name. And then, according to prosecutors, he transferred the remaining $312,037.57 into Hunter Studios' bank accounts and used it for his personal benefit. Roy, according to the indictment, received at least $15,000 via a bank check drawn from the stolen proceeds. The memo line on that check, according to prosecutors, read simply, "Per agreement." Renuka Burwani did not know any of this was happening. She was dying in the home that had just been taken from her. Her son Kamal found out the way people find out about things like this. Not from a bank, not from a government agency, not from any system designed to protect elderly homeowners. He found out in December 2024 while going through mail at the house, where his mother still lived and was still receiving care. He opened a letter addressed to Victor Quimis from the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. According to Kamal's own public account, that letter congratulated Quimis on becoming the new owner of the home and gave him instructions on how to set up an online account to pay the water and sewer bill. Kamal Burwani told CBS New York his mother was 88 years old. She was in hospice care and completely bedridden with round-the-clock aids. She could not even turn in bed, or feed herself, or hold a pen, yet while she lay helpless, two individuals conspired to steal her home, a home that she rightfully owned and maintained for decades. He and Sabita contacted the New York Attorney General's office shortly after finding that letter. Before we continue, please help get this story in front of more people. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It genuinely helps these warnings reach the families who need them. And if you know someone elderly, recently retired, or in any position where one trusted person handles their money, share this video with them. One conversation could keep another family from finding out too late. The investigation that followed was led by Detective Jennifer Garcia under the supervision of Supervising Detective Anna Ospinova and Deputy Chief Juanita Bright, according to the AG's office. The case was prosecuted by Assistant Attorney General Nazi Modiri under the supervision of Public Integrity Bureau Chief Gerard Murphy, Deputy Bureau Chief Kieran Heer, and Real Estate Enforcement Unit Section Chief Nicholas Batsides. On the 4th of August 2025, Victor Quimis was arrested and arraigned in Queens Supreme Court. According to court records, he pleaded not guilty and was released without bail. He faces an 11-count indictment including 4 counts of grand larceny in the first degree, 2 counts of offering a false instrument for filing in the first degree, residential mortgage fraud in the second degree, money laundering in the second degree, 2 counts of criminal possession of a forged instrument in the second degree, and scheme to defraud in the first degree. On the 7th of August 2025, Attorney General Letitia James announced the indictments on the steps of Queens County Criminal Court. Deepa Roy, as of that announcement, remained at large. She was scheduled to appear in court the 8th of September 2025 and faced the identical charges as Quimis. If convicted, both defendants face a maximum sentence of 8 1/3 to 25 years in prison. Under the new law, if Roy and Quimis are convicted, the Burwani family home is to be returned to them. Renuka Burwani died in June of 2025. She never saw the charges announced. She spent her final months in a home that, on paper, no longer belonged to her. Now here is the part of this story that should make you stop and think, because the crime itself, as devastating as it is not the most troubling thing here. What is most troubling is that it was possible at all. For years, deed theft in New York was extraordinarily difficult to prosecute as a criminal matter. When families reported it, authorities often told them it was a civil dispute, not a criminal one. There was no specific crime called deed theft on the books. The Attorney General's office had limited jurisdiction, and the county clerk's office, the same office that records every deed transfer in the state, had no legal obligation to verify what it was recording. The result was a system that worked perfectly for the thieves. File a forged deed, record it, extract money against the property, and by the time the family figures out what happened, you have already spent the proceeds. The legal system treats it as a paperwork problem to be sorted out in civil court. That takes years. It costs the family tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees, and there is no guarantee the property comes back. New York's new deed theft law, which took effect the 19th of July 2024 and was championed by Attorney General James and sponsored by State Senator Zelnor Myrie and Assemblymember Landon Dace, changed that. It made deed theft a standalone felony under New York's penal law. It gave the Attorney General's office original criminal jurisdiction to prosecute these cases. And it gave courts the power to return stolen properties to rightful owners upon conviction. The Burwani case is the first prosecution ever brought under that law. Before it existed, Roy and Quimis could have walked away with a civil judgment and served no prison time. After it, they face up to 25 years. But that law does not help you if no one is watching. And in most states across this country, there is no equivalent law, and there is still no system that alerts you when someone files a deed on your home. So here is what you and the people you love can actually do. First, look up your local county clerk or recorder's office and search your own property records by address right now. In most jurisdictions, this is free and available online. You should see your name as the owner. If you see any name you do not recognize, contact an attorney immediately. Second, many counties have begun offering free deed fraud alert programs. You give the recorder's office your contact information, and they alert you when any document is filed against your property. Sign up for this service if it is available where you live. Third, if you have a parent or grandparent with dementia, or anyone in end-of-life care, establish a power of attorney if one is not already in place, and make sure someone in the family is regularly checking the property records, not once a year but every few months. Fourth, talk to the health aides and caregivers who have access to your elderly loved one's home. Know who is visiting. Know their names. If a new person begins showing up regularly and claiming to be a friend, ask questions. The 2 years Roy spent visiting Renuka before committing this crime were 2 years the family did not know she was there. Fifth, if you are in New York and believe you have been a victim of deed theft, you can contact the Attorney General's office at 1-800-77-17755 or email deedtheft@ag.ne.gov. Renuka Burwani moved into that house in Queens as a young immigrant woman building a new life in a new country. She and her husband paid that mortgage. They maintained that home. They raised their family inside it. And in the final months of her life, bedridden, unable to speak for herself, someone walked in through the trust she had placed in a supposed friend and tried to take all of it. She did not get to see the charges filed, but because her son opened a piece of mail in December 2024 A law passed in 2024 finally had its first test. And the question those facts leave open is not really about this case. The question is, who else is lying in a bed right now, in a home their family does not know has already been stolen? Because the next case in our files did not happen to someone bedridden or in hospice. It happened to people who were financially distressed, still in their homes, still capable of answering the door, still trusting enough to believe that the person who showed up with paperwork was there to help them. A Brooklyn real estate investor, according to prosecutors, ran that scheme not once, but 11 times, targeting homeowners in neighborhoods across the borough, one forged document at a time. That case, and what it tells us about who is watching your door right now, is coming next